A prophet, a secret marriage, and a woman locked behind the doors of a mental hospital. This story wasn't supposed to come out, but destiny took an unexpected turn. What was once buried is now leaking out piece by piece, and you won't believe who's at the center of it all. For years, Prophet Todd Hall had been known as a powerful voice in the prophetic ministry. People called him the praiseologist, and his energy on the pulpit left crowds in awe. But behind the fiery sermons and bold declarations was a shadow, one no one wanted to admit was there. Let me tell you, the whispers started a long time ago. They said there was a woman, not just any woman, but someone who claimed to be Todd Hall's secret wife. At first, her voice was small, coming through quiet conversations and distant Facebook posts. Then, just like that, she disappeared. No church appearances, no online updates. It was like she had vanished from the face of the earth. People moved on. They called it gossip and pushed it to the side. But this is where it gets interesting. She didn't vanish because she gave up. She was locked away in a mental institution. And now, after years of silence, she is finally speaking out. She didn't talk through a press conference. She didn't speak from a pulpit. She shared her truth through voice notes, emotional letters, and handwritten journal entries written from inside a faith-based psychiatric facility. And the craziest part, what she revealed was more than just emotional pain. It was a deep spiritual wound that could tear down a legacy. According to her journals, she met Prophet Todd Hall almost a decade ago at one of his major conferences. She described the encounter as divine. She believed he saw her not just as a churchgoer, but as someone with purpose. Their connection grew quickly. What started as mentorship soon turned into private meetings, personal phone calls, and deep spiritual conversations. According to her, those conversations led to something more. She said Todd Hall made promises, not just promises of prayer and guidance, but of partnership and love. He allegedly told her that God had chosen her for him, that they were meant to be together. And not long after that, she said they entered into what she called a spiritual marriage. No one knew. There were no public vows, no photos, no celebration. It was kept in the dark. But here is the shocking part. She said that in private, he called her his wife. He gave her a ring. He made vows. But in public, she was invisible. She wrote, "I was told to stay silent." He said the people wouldn't understand. He said my voice could damage the ministry. But what about the damage done to her? According to her family, she stopped working. She became emotionally and spiritually dependent on him. She traveled to events connected to his ministry. Slowly, she was pulled away from her old life. Friends stopped hearing from her. She withdrew from the world. And then, just like that, she was gone. No online presence, no church visits. Years passed. Then something unexpected happened. A nurse working at a faith-based psychiatric hospital reached out to a Christian blogger anonymously. She said, "There's a woman here who keeps saying she's Prophet Todd Hall's wife. And the things she's saying, they're too specific to be made up." That one message opened the floodgates. This is how everything started unraveling. The woman's voice notes began leaking. Dozens of handwritten pages came forward. She had written more than 80 pages describing her experience, her love for the prophet, and the emotional pain she suffered when he allegedly cut her off. But it didn't stop there. She claimed that before she was admitted to the hospital, she tried to reach out to leaders connected to Todd Hall, pastors, first ladies, gospel singers, pleading for help. She said not one of them responded. It was like they all turned their backs at once. And as her mental health worsened, the silence around her grew even louder. But now that her story is leaking out, people are starting to pay attention. You won't believe the details that are coming next, because what she said in those letters and voice notes could change everything. The voice notes didn't sound like someone trying to get attention. They sounded like a woman who had been emotionally broken, spiritually abandoned, and mentally exhausted. In one of the recordings, her voice trembled as she cried. You stood on pulpits and preached about love, honor, and integrity. You gave me a ring, made vows, and then disappeared. You left me in silence. Her pain wasn't just romantic, it was spiritual. She believed in Todd Hall's calling. She followed his lead, and she trusted that what they had was from God. But this is where it gets interesting. Her writings reveal a terrifying shift. After being promised everything, she was left with nothing, not even her voice. She described in one journal entry how she tried to attend one of Todd Hall's conferences uninvited, desperate for acknowledgement. She thought that maybe, just maybe, if he saw her in person again, he would finally accept her publicly. But when she showed up, she was removed by security. According to her, it was humiliating. She felt like a ghost haunting a place that once felt like home. And just days after that incident, she was checked into the mental institution. Family members say her emotional state completely collapsed. She was paranoid, heartbroken, and mentally overwhelmed. And the craziest part, that same week, her apartment was cleared out. Her personal belongings disappeared. Important documents vanished. The timing was too strange to be a coincidence. But there was something else she had done, something she believed would protect her. She had started the process of filing a legal claim. She contacted a lawyer to begin a spousal support and fraud case. She believed she had enough evidence to prove there was a spiritual marriage with real emotional and financial consequences. Voice notes, letters, journals, even pictures, allegedly, but she never got the chance to file anything officially. Her mental breakdown happened before the case could move forward. Her brother said she was trying to take her power back, and just when she started, everything fell apart. This led many people online to ask, was this really a breakdown, or was it a breakdown caused by betrayal, silence, and emotional trauma? Because let's be honest, being gaslighted, isolated, and silenced by someone you believed was your spiritual husband would break anyone. But what made this even more troubling was that Todd Hall never said a word. Not a denial, not a clarification, nothing. And this silence started speaking louder than anything else. People expected at least one post on social media, a statement, a sermon to explain things, but instead, there was just silence. Meanwhile, his team quietly began making changes. According to sources, archived Instagram stories were deleted. A sermon from 2020, where Todd Hall spoke about a broken covenant, vanished from YouTube. Even his booking page reportedly changed management. 2 assistants stepped down without any public explanation. This is how things started looking suspicious. And while all of this was happening in silence, the woman's voice continued to echo through leaked voice notes. In one heartbreaking clip, she sobbed. He told me if I ever told anyone, God would take his hand off my life. He said demons would torment me if I ever exposed him. He said I would be cursed for touching the Lord's anointed. Now, let's pause right here. What makes this story different? It's not just about a failed relationship. It's about a pattern that many women in ministry recognize all too well. Spiritual manipulation disguised as prophetic covering. The term she said he used, out of alignment, used by the devil, don't touch God's anointed, those are the same words often used to keep people in fear, silence, and emotional bondage. It wasn't just romantic control, it was spiritual control. And even now, as more voice notes come out, the one thing she keeps saying is, I just want peace again. She never asks for revenge. She never calls for Todd Hall to be destroyed. She simply asks to be heard, to be validated, and to be healed. But the most disturbing question still remains, why isn't anyone in the church saying anything? As the silence from Prophet Todd Hall grew heavier, people began looking around, wondering why the church, especially those closest to him, weren't saying anything either. Not one major prophetic voice, not one bishop, Not one well-known first lady came forward to defend the woman or even acknowledge the situation. You won't believe how quiet it got. It was as if an invisible wall had been built to block out her cries. But behind that silence, something darker was forming. A growing belief that this wasn't just about one woman's pain, but about a deep sickness in parts of the church culture. Let me tell you, behind the fancy suits, packed conferences, and high energy sermons, there's a dangerous game that plays out in the shadows. The woman's claims were no longer just emotional, they were backed by timestamps, details from ministry trips, hotel locations, private dinners, and even messages that allegedly came from ministry staff. Some of these messages lined up too perfectly with known parts of Todd Hall's public schedule. This is where it gets interesting. If she was truly delusional, how did she know so much that could be verified? That question alone started causing people in private Facebook groups, women's ministries, and gospel forums to take her more seriously. And the craziest part, more women started speaking up. In anonymous blog comments, TikTok duets, and YouTube lives, others began saying, "This happened to me too." Not all with Todd Hall, but with other prophetic leaders, bishops, and so-called spiritual fathers. Women who were promised mentorship, then emotionally entangled, then cast aside the moment things got inconvenient. He said God told him I was his wife, then disappeared. He promised covering, but left me uncovered when I got pregnant. Stories just like hers, echoing the same pattern. Spiritual charm followed by emotional abandonment. People began using one word to describe what was happening: manipulation, spiritual manipulation. And in her case, the pattern was horrifying. She believed she was chosen. She believed she was anointed, but she also believed her pain was part of the price. In her voice notes, she apologized again and again. She questioned herself constantly. Maybe I'm in error. Maybe I made it up. Maybe I deserve this. And that's what years of gaslighting can do. It doesn't just break your heart, it makes you doubt your mind. But here is the shocking part. Even with all this happening, voice notes circulating, blogs posting her story, women relating to her, Todd Hall remained silent. And this silence didn't look like wisdom anymore. It looked like strategy. Some insiders claimed his legal team told him to stay quiet because any comment, even a denial, could backfire. If he admitted to a spiritual connection or gave the impression of a personal relationship, it could open the door to legal action. But others said this was a tactic they'd seen before in the church. Stay silent long enough, let people forget, and wait for the next scandal to shift the spotlight. But this time, that tactic wasn't working. If anything, the silence made things worse. The church started looking guilty. Not just Todd Hall, but everyone protecting him. People started unfollowing him quietly. Gospel singers who once shared stages with him deleted old posts. A few churches even canceled his upcoming appearances without explanation. And still, he said nothing. Meanwhile, the woman remained in the facility. She continued writing, continued sending audio messages, and continued begging for someone to simply believe her. In one heartbreaking letter, she wrote, "I was anointed, called, and still discarded. I loved a prophet who made me a secret." She wasn't asking for money. She wasn't demanding a platform. She was simply trying to reclaim her truth. As her voice kept reaching more people online, the battle between truth and denial exploded. On one side, a growing community of women, especially those in ministry, began standing with her. They saw their own pain in her story. In comments, DMs, and prayer circles, they shared how they too were manipulated, silenced, or spiritually abused by men who claimed to be prophets. One woman wrote, "He told me I was anointed, but only when I stayed quiet." Another said, "They protect the platform, not the person. I see her, I believe her." But on the other side, the church protectors came rushing in. Die-hard followers of Prophet Todd Hall flooded online spaces, calling her possessed, mentally unstable, and even demon-led. Some labeled her a Jezebel's spirit sent to destroy a man of God. They said she was obsessed, delusional, and bitter from rejection. But here's where it gets truly disturbing. Many of these critics never even listened to her full story. They didn't hear the voice notes. They didn't read the journals. They didn't ask, what if it's true? They simply attacked. And in doing so, they revealed a terrifying reality. The church still has a long way to go in protecting its women. This wasn't just a story about one man and one woman anymore. It had become a mirror, a reflection of the spiritual sickness hiding beneath polished pulpits. Too many people worship titles more than they protect truth. Too many ministries care about image more than integrity. And too many times, women like her are tossed aside the moment they become inconvenient. The real tragedy wasn't just what allegedly happened between her and Todd Hall, it was how the church treated her after she broke down. Mental illness was used as a weapon. The moment she was institutionalized, the church used that as the final reason to silence her. She's crazy. She's unstable. Don't believe a word she says. But no one asks, how did she get there? What pushed her to the edge? Because trauma, betrayal, and spiritual manipulation can absolutely break someone's mental state. That doesn't make their story false. In many cases, it proves just how deeply the pain went. And in her voice notes, despite all the chaos, there was no call for vengeance. No demand to ruin Todd Hall's career. She asked for prayer. She begged for peace. She cried for restoration, not for a platform, not for money, but for her voice, her sanity, and her identity to be restored. She just wanted to be seen. Let me tell you, this story isn't just about what Todd Hall did or didn't do. It's about what the church did when it had the chance to do the right thing. And sadly, the answer was nothing. Pastors who once stood beside him now act like they never knew him. Gospel singers who shared stages with him have gone silent. And the ones who call themselves prophetic, the ones who say they hear from God, they've said absolutely nothing. So now we're left with a powerful question. Is the church truly a place for healing? Or just a place that hides its wounds behind stained glass and microphones? Will this woman be the last to suffer in silence? Or will her story finally break the cycle? If this story moved you, don't stay silent. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe the church has failed women like her? Should Prophet Todd Hall finally break his silence? And most importantly, how many more must be broken before the body of Christ wakes up? Like this video, share it with someone in ministry, and subscribe for more untold stories that others are too afraid to speak. Because this isn't just gossip. This is the truth many were hoping would never be heard.